You must go through the pain. You must go through the process. The more you resist, the more you tense up, the more you run away, the more you try to anesthetize, the more you try to run back to safety, the longer the process takes and the more it hurts. And the key to success, the key to anything, even the most deepest and audacious goals, it's on the other side of your fear. It's on the other side of that pain that you don't want to go through. It's on the other side of that fire. And as someone who is in the birth space, I've got so much insight into where you might be at in your conception, gestation, and birthing process of the new you, of your new dreams, your new creations. Because when you're creating something new in your life, calling something in, whether it's a relationship or a project or a movement, whatever it is that you are trying to create, you need to understand one thing, that there is a process and you must go through the process. And if you try to skip any steps or speed up the process, that is when you have trauma. And when you are creating something new, you also have to recognize that you are shedding your old identity. Now, women are innately connected to this. If you really follow our cycles, if you follow the phases of the moon, if you even follow the fact that we technically shed our skin every 29 days, then you need to recognize that there is a process within life and there's a process within the seasons of the year and the seasons of your life. And it is something that I have been kind of playing around with for a while. It's something that I've been tracking in my own life. It's something that I have noticed. If you saw my other video about love, money, and birth, you might already know that there are contraction periods when you are going to reach another, like basically a tier of income. You hit an upper limit and you think, oh, I guess that's it. No, you have to go through that fire. There is something else. But in order to get to it, you need to shift your identity. And you can either go back to safety and what you did before and basically settle, or you can be like, you know what? This isn't going to stop me. And I'm going to breathe through that contraction. I'm going to basically feel that pain, because the faster I can feel it, the faster I'm going to get over it. So where are you at in the birthing process? Well, if you're not familiar with birth, or you're not familiar with the physiological way of birth, because there is a difference between what we have been taught in society and what is actually nature. Okay, so we've been disconnected from nature. We've been disconnected from our bodies. We've been disconnected from our innate wisdom. Now, I could go into all the reasons why the feminine has been repressed, and I could go into all the reasons why snakes are feared, why spiders are feared, why we really revile these creatures and don't really see the innate wisdom in them, why the feminine is often compartmentalized between either you're the mother or you're the whore, the Madonna or whore dichotomy. You're either too much or not enough, or you aren't being a good girl, you're the bad girl, you're the queen of thorns, you're a wild rose and you need to be tamed. You need to fit in with the roses that have been perfectly cultivated. Why can't you be more like that? Like, there's so many things, so many parallels, and I could get into it all. And I could also get into the idea of like Elphaba versus Galinda, but we're really going to focus on birth for this one. So if you really want to dive deeper, you know where to find it all. It's in Carly Bondard Uncensored. I just recently added to that archive too, so all of the recent videos that I've done have now been uploaded, so you can go and watch the Queen of Thorns. You can go and watch the money, love, and birth one as well. I've put that up, and I've got the one on abundance, so they're all there. I'm creating more playlists as well, so make sure that even if you're watching this on YouTube later, that you go and check out those playlists, because the deeper you go with me, the more treasures you uncover. I can go 10 layers deep on everything I teach, And every single idea that comes to me, it builds on itself. And then I find more parallels. So I started with birth, and then I realized that the metaphors of birth also transfer to other areas of my life, and now I've pretty much embodied that. In fact, yesterday, and actually a few days before that, I was connecting with someone in the birth space who was also kind of seeing the parallels and with neuro-linguistic side of things. And I'm like, we really need to get together, and I want to make sure that it's aligned. And my process is that we meet up when it's aligned, we talk, and then we need to integrate the process. And I joked, it's like, no putting Pitocin in this. We're going to birth this so that it's the best experience possible for both of us. And she's like, I love your way of doing things, and I incorporate it too. So there's something about birth workers who intuitively have picked up on the inner wisdom, and I'm going to share it with you. Okay. So where are you at in that birthing process? Well, if you go through this, and I'm going to give you some metaphors and some parallels and help you really see where are you at in this creation of yourself and of your new project or whatever you're calling in, because it's two things and they're both working in tandem, and then there's a third entity. Okay? So there's a third entity of timing, and then there's the entity of you and whatever you're wanting to create, and then it's the creation itself. So when you are in the trying to conceive stage, things are getting ready. Now, the more prepared you are, like getting your mindset strong, getting your body strong, being able to prepare the outside environment, the more that you are going to be able to gather those educational resources, and the more that you're going to be able to get those guides and facilitators. I mean, sometimes I have people on my channel who are following me that they aren't even pregnant yet. They aren't even married yet, but they are already thinking about this. And this is where I was, is I knew that at some point I wanted to be a mom. I also knew that our birth culture is very trauma-based and terrifying, and I did not want to give up my autonomy. I didn't want to leave my dignity at the door. I didn't want any of that pain that they were showing. It's like breaking a million bones in your body. And I didn't want the epidural. I didn't want to anesthetize myself to it. I just didn't want trauma. I didn't want to go through that trauma, because birth trauma sucks. And now that I've actually experienced birth trauma, even in a straightforward birth, I recognize just how much gets taken away when you are basically giving up your power. So power cannot be you can't actually have somebody take your power. They can't take it. You give it up, because you can take your power back. And so if you're in the trying to conceive stage, you have two options here. Okay? The first option is to do what everybody else tells you to do on the outside, and you're not really intuitively thinking of yourself, or they're like, oh, it's just easy, you just create it and then it happens, and you don't have to do anything in preparation. That may be true. It may just suddenly spring upon you. However, the more prepared you are in the beginning, the more likely you're going to succeed once you get to that first trimester. So this is like thinking to yourself, I'd really like to create a business. And then you just try to create one without getting your mindset strong to be able to start thinking, I am no longer an employee, or I am no longer a stay-at-home mom. I'm no longer just somebody who watches other people create this business. I am going to create it now. I am now a business owner. Like creating that mindset. Or I'm going to find the love of my life. Well, you could go out into the dating apps and just like basically blindly go out there. Or you can be like, I am going to consciously call this in. I'm going to consciously identify myself as somebody who is lovable inherently and has a lot of value to give. And I'm going to work on myself to be the kind of person that I want to attract. Instead of just thinking, I'm going to just go out there, find the best person, and then just like expect them to love me. No, it's I'm going to be that person. I am that person. I embody that. So when you want to be a mother, You need to identify as being a mother. If you want to be a father, you need to identify as being a father. Sure, you can just go hook up with any woman, and you can even have a long-term partner, and you can spill your seed. Absolutely. That is a way to pass on your DNA. But being a father and actually embodying the role of the father is completely different from just spreading your seed and then having a kid. Completely different. Being a mother is completely different than allowing somebody to impregnate you and popping out kids. You need to embody it in order for the creation that you are putting out into the world to thrive. So this is where people miss it. Because if you aren't actually ready to be that identity, and you don't even want that identity, you don't want it, then trying to become it is not going to work for you. If you are somebody who prefers to work for others, then being an entrepreneur probably isn't for you. It is for the people that don't want to be tied to a 9-to-5. The kinds of people who want to have that freedom, who aren't afraid of the contractions and aren't afraid to put some work and effort into it and aren't afraid to continue to reinvent themselves over and over and over again. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to just be happy. Like maybe you're happy in the position of serving others as a waitress. That's fine. If you love that job, that's great. If you happen to be somebody who loves to clean houses and you love to work under a company and you feel safer working under a company and you are being treated well, then that's absolutely fine. I mean, there's going to be some empowered birth queens that are going to be part of my coaching queens, and they're just going to want to stay working with me. They're not going to want to go outside. And then there's going to be the ones that stay with me for a season or two, or maybe a few years, and they grow their wings, and I get to the point where I look at them and I'm like, you are not going to thrive here anymore. You need to go out and you need to actually test this. I've given you everything that I can give you in this moment, and you have something really powerful that you need to do. And if you are stuck with me doing this, and I know you have loyalty to me, and we can work in a different way than what we were working in the past, where you were constantly working next to me. I mean, I did this with Jenny too. It's like, yes, she is the co-founder of Empowering Moms, Empowered Birth Academy. That's the part that she helped with. And she is still going to come in and help. But at the same time, she has her own dreams to birth. And I want that for her. So our partnership looks different than what a lot of people would think of as a partnership. And you need to recognize that people come into your life for you to grow and for them to grow. And if there's no growth happening anymore, if it's just comfortable and no more growth is happening, they need to go beyond, or you need to change something so that they can grow more. So, I mean, my whole concept is that this is going to be very, very transformational. I'm creating a transformational dynamic. And it starts with really, what are you going to conceive? What is it that you really want? And this is where the birth visionary comes in. It's what am I going to conceive? When I was envisioning myself as a future mother, I knew exactly what kind of mother I wanted to be. And it wasn't, my kids are never going to do this, 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 and this. It was, when my kids do the dumb thing, this is how I want to handle it. When my kids inevitably don't do their homework, or inevitably they decide that they're going to wear something to school that is either going to be too warm for them or too cold for them, or they leave food inside of a room and then they attract ants, they're going to be held accountable without shame, without blame. They're going to learn how to clean up their messes without being told that they are a dumbass. They did a dumb thing, but they themselves are not dumb. And I also knew that I was going to hold my kids and help regulate their emotions and help them feel safe. I knew all this before I even had kids. I knew this even before I went into developmental psychology in college and really understood this. The kind of mother I was going to be was going to be present, was going to be cheering for their dreams and saying, I love you, I support you, you are amazing. I was going to point out the things they were good at. I was going to focus on their strengths, and I was going to also show them how they were going to be able to take those strengths and shore up their weaknesses, their stretches, the things that maybe they would think I'm a loser and I can't do it. And I'm like, you are not. Like my son saying to me, Mom, I'm stupid. That's why my homework isn't done. I'm like, no, honey, no, you're not stupid. I have seen you at 8 years old gather a team of kids much older than you together in order to get something done. There was like a raid or some sort of event on his Fortnite, and he wanted this skin of the Rock with all of the accessories, and there was a smirky eyebrow thing, like he actually had the emote, and he wanted all of it, but there was a certain time limit that he needed to complete this by, and he had the pass. I told him he needed to earn that, so he went and cleaned for me. This 8-year-old cleaned up for me so that he could get a pass for Fortnite. And then he gathered an entire team together, and then he had that team working towards a common goal. That is powerful. That's way more impressive than finishing some report that he needs to have done for middle school. And even though that report is important and I want him to do it, I'm not focused on what grade he gets or how much better other people's things are to his. He is going to stick to his strengths, and then anything that needs to get done, he's going to do it to the best of his ability, and that is all that matters. That's all that matters to me. If something's not a kid's strength, I'm not going to go and say, oh, well, we need to push and push and push on you not having this weakness. No, instead I'm going to find where are they actually already, genius. And this is how I coach too. It's like, okay, you're not strong in this area, but where are you strong? Let's find that and let's borrow from that and move that into this area. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. I will just tell you right now, I'm terrible with math. Absolutely terrible with math in certain areas. I understand the concepts and like this Common Core math that the kids are doing. There's things it's like, I don't understand how to do this. And then once I realized like, oh, wait a minute, they want you to build from the ground up, but what if I reverse engineer it? Okay, so you're telling me that this number, all these other numbers have to equal this number, okay? And then the ones in the middle have to be, oh, okay, I get it now. So which ones would break down to this, okay? And then after that, I can break it down to something else. And, oh, yeah, it makes sense now. And I solved the problem once I actually looked at it. So this is the same thing when you are trying to conceive. It seems difficult on the outside, and you don't know what's going to work, and you hear a lot about failure, and you wonder, well, is it me? Actually, it can be a chemistry thing, and sometimes if you are collaborating with someone, especially trying to conceive, sometimes it's them. Sometimes it's actually them that are the problem. If you have been taking care of yourself, and you're otherwise healthy, and you've got a partnership with somebody else, and you're trying to get a group project done, and they aren't pulling their weight, then it's not going to be that beautiful vision that you wanted. And when you are basically coming up with that vision, you need to have those 5 pillars. I mean, go back and watch some of my other videos about the 5 pillars. You can go and read my book, Your Empowered Birth, if you were really looking at birthing something, because it's in there. But understanding, in conception, you have your vision, and you also need to prepare. The more prepared you are, the more likely your vision is going to start to come to pass. But if you try to go out and do it, yeah, you might have some success for a little while. But then we have the next part. The first trimester, the first 3 months of your new creation and your new identity. And you know what? This is actually a really hard time. And people don't really realize how much rest is needed, how much more nutrients are needed, resources, and how much they are going to be just tired. This is the phase where you aren't really telling a lot of people either, because you don't even know if this is going to work. So you don't have as much support around you unless you've been proactive and you know who to bring in for that early support. You also aren't seeing a lot of experts at the beginning unless they are in the business of the trying to conceive portion. And even then, they sometimes miss it. So you really need to have that right facilitator in the beginning. You also need to have a lot of support from the people around you. Your partner needs to be on board with this. Because if you are creating something in the beginning, this entity, you don't even know what it's going to be like. You don't even know if it's going to work. So you've got those 3 months to figure out if this is going to stick. So you're testing it out, and, you're going to have moments where you're going to feel nauseous. You're going to feel sick. You're going to hate it. Like, honestly, it can be exhausting, and there's sickness that happens. There's exhaustion, and your life is not the same as it was before you conceived. And this is where the identity of mother or father or entrepreneur, you start to recognize who's going to stick it out and who's going to complain the whole time. And who's going to say, I'm never doing this again after this works? But who's going to be there and be like, you know what? There are some challenges here and I'm still enjoying this. Even with these challenges, I'm still enjoying this. Because, there's a lot of men out there, I'm not saying all of them, but the ones that said they wanted to be a dad, and then their partner gets pregnant, and suddenly their partner cannot do all of the things that she was doing before. She can no longer work as hard as she was working. She might even need to take some time off of work to be able to take care of herself. She may need somebody else to cook and clean and take care of things for her because she doesn't have the energy. And if she's already got other children, then forget it. Like, no, hire her somebody. Seriously, hire her a cleaning lady. Like, if you can't physically clean because you're working, hire somebody for her so that she doesn't have to do it. I mean, I even did this. I took some money aside and I invested it in my ability to rest. And it was the best $40 I'd ever spent, was to have that lady come in once a month to clean. If she'd come in every week, that would have been even better. But, you work with what you have. And even just getting that little tiny bit of help in the beginning can do wonders for you. If you are building a business and you are still trying to clean everything and do all the things before and do all of the other things that everybody else expected you to do, instead of recognizing there is a new season happening here. There's a new season happening in your life, and you are building something new. And I go into this process of creation, and over time it's like, okay, right now I'm focused on this, and this has to take a back seat. So what supports do I call in? Well, I make sure that the meals are really easy, that my kids can fix most of them themselves. I take a step back on cleaning. So I'm like, you guys are going to need to either not make as much messes or clean up, because mom is busy focused on this new project that is going to get us to another level in what I'm creating. Like, there's some attraction feature that I'm building. I'm always creating more attraction features. I'm always creating more value for my community. I've got courses, I've got programs, I've got my book. Whenever I was creating anything, I would always consciously be like, okay, I know what it's like to birth something. I know how much work it's actually going to take. And sometimes it takes longer than I expect, and sometimes it's done faster because I'm like, wow, I got a real big boost of energy, and I just recorded all of these master classes in one day. I rock. Yay, go me. And sometimes technology breaks down on a day when I was thinking I was going to go and create a whole bunch of stuff, and I have to take that step back. Because those snags do come up. Are you going to let them stop you, or are you going to keep going? If you have morning sickness on a day that you were planning to do something, are you going to push through and make yourself more miserable, make yourself more exhausted, and then end up even worse off? Or are you going to recognize that maybe your body needs a little bit more time to rest and take that time? The more I took time to rest, the better I felt. I recognized the parallel. The more I take time to rest, the better I feel. If I start to feel like I'm wearing down, I'm like, okay, it's time for me to rest. And if you are a woman, then you have a menstrual cycle, or you had one at one point, and you know that there are certain times where we need to rest. But do we? I mean, I do, because I decided to embody that, and I've noticed now that when I do that, things don't hurt as much or at all. It's not as miserable as when I was a teenager and in my 20s, when I would just push through it because I didn't understand that time to rest was important, and I just pushed through, and I'm like, I hate being tired. I hate being in pain. Well, you get more pain if you don't rest. And there's a key to this with birth too, which we're going to get into, because the gestation process is a longer phase before the really big part of birth. And then the postpartum as well, because that's integrating into your next level of identity of this thing you've created and how it's now going to be a living, breathing entity, sometimes literally and sometimes figuratively, depending on what you've created. I see business and love and any creation as a living, breathing entity that has its own dignity. And like when I've created something, like my book in itself is a transmission of my consciousness in that current form, and then how I can build off of that and how I can bring it back to the book. Same thing with my programs. There's a lot that I'm transmitting into them. Even my masterclasses, even this video right now, this live stream where I'm talking to you, I am transmitting something. Okay, so you get through that first trimester and you're starting to feel better. The reason you're starting to feel better is because you started to get those foundational skills. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you decided to just anesthetize the whole time, complain the whole time, and now your body has at least gotten to the point where something else is working for you. Okay? So in the first trimester, in actual pregnancy, you're building the placenta and the baby at the same time. So that's like you're building the structure and the product at the same time. You need to have both for it to be able to sustain itself. And you need to also have your identity. So identity, your structure and system, and the actual resulting product of it. Okay? So once you have that built though, you're now going into that next level. It's like I have this product or this idea of this product. I have a somewhat workable system. It's not perfect, but at the same time, it's enough of a foundation. And then on top of that, I'm starting to see myself more in a different identity than I was before. It's not complete. I'm still kind of clinging back to the old, but now I have to step into this new identity as mother, as parent, like as entrepreneur, whatever it is, you're stepping into a new identity. And even in relationships, I am no longer single. I am now a girlfriend or boyfriend. I am now a partner to somebody. I am now in a space where I am making a deeper commitment. After 3 months, you know enough to be like, do I want to continue this or not? And if you're not paying attention, if you're squinting because you're kind of just in the idea, like the idealization of it, of like, at least now I have a partner, instead of being like, is this person even the one I want to work with? Or is this somebody that I'm just hanging on to because they look good on paper or I'm lonely? Then you recognize like, oh, this isn't really for me, and you let that go. hopefully before 3 months, because that can be tricky. But, you know, we learn from our mistakes more than we learn from our successes. So understand that. So then you get to the 5th month of the 2nd trimester. This is like the change, okay? So you've got the foundation, and now things are starting to grow, okay? So the baby has been built. The baby could theoretically survive on the outside with a lot of help. It's not ready to be born yet. And most people are like, okay, like, I'm going to keep my baby in still because they're not ready. But theoretically, if something was to happen and they needed to be born faster, this is the point where they could actually be born. So after 20 weeks, you kind of, at 25, 26 weeks is kind of the sweet spot for babies. They can be a little younger, but their systems are still not fully developed, okay? They just have the outside. It's the external skeleton has been built and their body is like pretty much formed. The only thing is that their organs now need to perfect themselves. And they also need to be able to have that nervous system going. And they also need to have the other features that are coming. So if you've created your project, for instance, you've got one thing. To create a thriving ecosystem or business is not just creating one thing. That is why my ecosystem that I have, when I started my starter guide, it wasn't just that I'm going to create a starter guide. It was, I've built enough things that I can create the starter guide. Because without the foundational concepts of who my target audience is, what their big challenges are, what categories they fall into within my system where they're orienting themselves, and what things I have to offer, that starter guide would be completely useless. It wouldn't work. You can't create. So if you wanted to create my ecosystem, you would have to be at an established level as a creator or entrepreneur or coach, that if I asked you, okay, what's your product line and everything, that you could answer those questions. Like, you'd have to be there. And same with my clients. If they came to me and they said, help me with my birth plan, I'd be like, well, you need to have a birth plan for me to be able to help you with it. If you don't bring me a birth plan, I can't help you with your birth plan, because that's going to take more work. We have more foundational things. I'm going to give you a workbook, or I'm going to give you my book. I'm going to say, go through my book and create your birth plan. I've given you the steps. It's a step-by-step process. Otherwise, you're going to be paying me a lot longer and a lot more to have you sit down with me every week and we can figure that out together. I can do that. And it's going to cost you more. If you want that, it's premium service. So understanding change in trimester 2 and starting to shore up those systems. Trimester 3, you are getting ready to birth. By this point in your process, your identity is more solid. You are no longer who you were at the beginning when you were thinking of conceiving, or when you started to conceive, and when you were going through that first trimester and you started to realize, well, wait a minute, this is a lot harder than I thought. I'm really tired. There's an identity shift that's happening, to having that more like, oh, I think I've got this now. There's still some things I'm learning and it's still a little hard, but I can pretty much hang, to now you're in the last 3 months of your creation. This is when you get tired again, because you're not in the early stages. Yeah, you've still got the foundation, but now your product, your creation, whatever it is, your identity is growing. You're in the growth period, and the growth is rapid. If you look at the first trimester, it's rapid growth. And then the second trimester, it kind of evens out and it's more the internal system. And then the third trimester, it's growth again, like literally expanding if you are getting ready to give birth and you are uncomfortable with that growth. You can't wait for that product to be out there because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm having more pain and more obstacles, and I'm slowing down and speeding up and slowing down at the same time. And is this it? Is that it? Like, when am I going to birth this project? When am I going to birth this baby? Like, when is this going to be done? I want to go back to who I was after this. I can't wait to get this out so I can go back to who I was. I've got news for you. I've got news for you. You create something, you become something, you're not going back. I got news for you. Your life is not the same. If you didn't pay attention at the beginning, and you didn't pay attention in the second trimester, I got news for you. It's not going back. It's not. You have a kid. You are a new person. You build a business. You're not going back. Even if you decided to peace out on your project and be like, no, I'm done. I'm going back to a 9-to-5 job. It's not going to feel right to you anymore. You're going to realize that there's something missing. If you decide that you're going to go out and find your true love and you meet them and it's just not the right timing and you're like, well, I guess I'm just going to go settle over here. You can't. You can't. You know that. There is no turning back. And with birth, literally, that baby is coming out. Now, you can put that baby up for adoption and then you can go back to your life. But then, if you are consciously needing to do that, that's one thing. But that's an act of love, not an act of abandonment. And there's a difference between somebody who puts a baby up for adoption out of an act of love, knowing that they don't have the resources, they cannot actually take care of that baby, versus the person who never really wanted a kid in the first place, and then they got one, and then they basically give them away like the puppy that they didn't really want to have, which is also terrible. I cannot stand it that people will adopt an animal and then they have the novelty of the animal, and the second the animal becomes a real responsibility, they just it's not working out, and they just drop that animal off at a shelter if they even get to that point. It doesn't fit in my lifestyle. Or the parent who's like, it doesn't fit in my lifestyle for this kid, so, I'm just going to pawn that kid off on the other parent. It doesn't work. Because, that kid is a living, breathing human being. And, if you're creating a business and you're like, well, it doesn't work, you've just destroyed an entity that could have helped a lot of people. Don't create something without consciously recognizing you're going to change an identity. And this is different than having an identity being forced on you. I'm just going to be very clear about that because, yes, I know what people are going to say right now. I know that there's going to be certain people watching who are like, oh, she's on that side. No. All creation needs to be created consciously by people who want the creation, not have it forced on them. You don't force somebody to get into a business because you think they should be an entrepreneur. You don't force somebody to take a job just because you think they should take a job. You don't force somebody to be somebody that they're not. You don't force somebody to be a parent when they weren't really ready to be a parent. When I got accidentally pregnant, unintentionally, by my partner, who had said he wanted a baby, and he had kept joking about how it was baby making time for 2 years. He had kept saying how he wanted one kid by the time he was 30, and I was the one that was kind of holding off because I wanted to be ready to be a mother. And I knew that I was working towards that as the inner game of consciously being able to be a mother. And by the time we moved into another place, I was also thinking to myself, I'm going to be a mother. We need to have a place that's big enough to have our kids growing. I was thinking of houses in the term of, how is this going to be a home? Not how many bedrooms does it have. It's like, I wanted to see what those bedrooms were going to be used for, what they were going to become. First my office, and then they were going to also become a baby's room. That was my focus. That was my thoughts. My identity was shifting. It was like, I'm no longer going to be an employee. I'm going to be taking a step back because I want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I need to create things in place. Even now, as a technically single mom, my identity is still building itself. So I've said this before about preparing. My identity is shifting, and I know it's shifting. When I started creating my ecosystem and everything, my process, how I'm growing, empowering moms, how I'm choosing to create it, it's with the idea in mind that my partner is going to come in, we are going to have projects together, we are going to have our family time, we are going to have our personal time, we are going to have babies, and I need to be able to hold all of it. Not just one piece, not I'm only going to focus on my business and abandon my children, but to hold all of it. Because you need to expand to hold it. So if you're going to build a business and ignore your family, guess what happens? You are going to end up losing the family. If you are building a business and also consciously spending time with your family, consciously taking that time on the weekends to be with them, and you are consciously taking the time if you're older with grandchildren and also rebuilding or building, that is different than being somebody who's only focused on one thing and then treats everything else like just when they want them. Like the puppy that you get because you wanted to have a companion and then you realize, oh, it's actually work. And I don't want to do the work part. Or the person who wanted a baby because the baby will just love them and finally they'll have love. It's like, but that baby grows into a toddler that has its own autonomy and says no to you and doesn't always do what you say and then turns into a preschooler and gets even sassier and a 6-year-old and then a 6th grader and teenager and adult, and they are growing into their own person. Now, are you going to continue to expect them to just validate you? Or are you going to allow them to grow and also hold those boundaries and be like, hey, I get that you're mad at me right now, but if you keep telling me, woman, go do this for me, like, it's not working, kid. It's not working. This is actually damaging our relationship here. I love you, and I also won't let you treat me like that. Because what does that say about your integrity here? I'm standing for your integrity. So recognizing how are you showing up as a parent, how are you showing up as an owner of a business, and how are you showing up in other areas of your life on top of that? Can you hold everything? Because if you can't hold everything, then nothing's going to work and it's all going to fall apart. So the last trimester is when I actually see my clients less at the end of their pregnancy. If I've been working with them for 3 months, we are taking a step back in those final weeks where I might still see them like once a week, but we're not doing as much intensive work. And, sometimes I have to accelerate that process because they found me at 35 weeks and we've got more work to do. And at the same time, I'm going to tell them, okay, we have got this work to do. You do have things you need to get into place. And between those times, here is what you need to do to rest. Because you actually need to be resting at this time. You need to be resting and allowing your body to perfect the last few moments of what they need to do and for your baby. And you can't be pushing on the outside because you're going to get a whole bunch of practice contractions. It's going to make you think it's it. You're going to push on the outside and it's going to be more uncomfortable for you. That's what happens. So when you're birthing something huge, there are going to be moments when it feels like nothing's happening. And you're going to be like, I'm feeling a time crunch here and nothing's happening and maybe I should get things going. Maybe I should push harder on the outside. No. You actually have to breathe through that discomfort. You actually have to breathe through it. You have to trust that things are actually falling into place. And then when you get those bursts of energy and inspiration, that is when you are perfecting and preparing. But you're not preparing just for birth. You're preparing for the postpartum. Because after you birth something, you need to rest. Preferably for 3 months, you need to enjoy what you've built before you get right back into creation mode. So, recognizing we've come to the last trimester, and what comes next? Birth. This is the acceleration. So all of that foundational work that you did in the trying to conceive stage and the conception stage and the second trimester stage where you were perfecting the inner side of things and shifting in your baby's identity, your creation's identity, and basically reiterating things and getting things more solid and recognizing I am in a different space now than I was, and now I'm starting to actually get that community together because now we're in the final trimester and I know I'm about to give birth. The signs start to come in a lot more frequently. Now, you can use the signs in 2 ways. You can use the signs as, oh, it's something's happening, I'm going to push on the outside. Or you can do the wise thing. See it as the confirmation. Oh, that challenge that came up, I handled that pretty good. That's a new identity shift than what I used to do. I'm not afraid of that anymore. I used to be terrified and now I'm not. I'm at peace with it. I know how to stand in my power. And then at the same time, oh, something's happening. I guess we're getting closer to what we want. Awesome. That person reached out and said something. That person unlocked a door. Oh, I heard something. I heard some confirmation. Oh, I see that somebody is starting to recognize my work and they are commenting on every single video. They're telling me to keep going. Well, they haven't even scratched the surface. They're new to my channel. Oh, this person that I've always admired is now reaching out to me and asking me to review their book for them. Oh, here's another person I haven't actually seen before, but they seem very aligned with what I'm doing. And I've got some new insights. I've got some new ideas here. More ideas are being kind of given to me to expand what I'm already birthing. I'm on the right track. I don't need to push on the outside. I know it will come in when it's ready. Because do you know what? It's not your body that starts the process of birth. Your baby starts the process of birth. When the system is done, and it's at a level that can sustain that baby on the outside, and they've got enough fat gathered so that they can insulate, then the last thing is their lungs actually are ready. And then there's a surfactant that allows the lungs to basically have the alveoli opening up so that they can take in oxygen. Because remember, they've been underwater. They're in amniotic fluid. So when that system is done, that triggers the process. And the uterus has oxytocin receptors that start to build in it. Before that baby is ready, those oxytocin receptors aren't there. So you could push and push on the outside, but there's nothing to hold it. It's just pain. It's not going to do anything. And then, like, the cervix has to soften and it needs to move forward. Like, there's so much that needs to happen before the birth process can even start, before the labor process can even start. Those systems need to be perfected. And then it signals. And then it's like the product is finally in its form where when it is birthed, it is ready to stand on its own. That's the idea. You don't want a shaky product. You want something that is going to be able to stand firm. Same with your identity. You don't want a shaky, false identity. You don't want to fake it. In order to become the person you need to be to hold the thing that you want to hold, you need to have that strong foundational identity, the core, solidified, which means that all of those fears that would have kept you stuck before, you need to have transcended them, so that when those challenges come up in a bigger way in the future, you can handle it, like the boss battles, if you will. If you don't have that figured out, if you maybe did some cheat codes and you're like, oh, well, I cheated and then I got that boss handled, so I can probably take on the big boss. No, you're going to get your ass handed to you. If you didn't take the time to actually learn the skills and level up and do the grinding levels, it's not going to work. It's not long-term sustainability. Luck only gets you so far. If you manage to impregnate a woman who is way, way out of your league, and you had no idea just how much out of your league she was, because she didn't see her own power, you managed to impregnate her and get a couple of kids out of her, you're not going to be able to keep her if you weren't able to handle her in the first place. And, if you weren't able to keep her, you weren't able to handle being a parent in the first place, maybe that shouldn't have happened at all in the identity. But you wanted it, right? But you aren't able to hold it. You have to shift your identity. And then even, it's an ongoing process as a parent. You can't just be like, oh, I'm a really good parent to this baby. I'm really good at burping a baby. I'm really good at rocking a baby. Okay, what happens when that baby is no longer a baby and they're now a toddler? They no longer breastfeed as frequently as they did, which means you can no longer put them to sleep the same way that you did when they were breastfeeding. They are going to push back against sleep. Trust me, I've been there. I had the most awesome, easy babies that slept because I would put them at the breast and they would fall asleep and my milk was magical milk. And anytime they would get hurt, they would run to me and they'd get their magical milk and they'd feel better. But then there came the point where they were weaning, and that is not one of my tools that I can use anymore. Not for those kids. No, I have other tools that I need to use. So I had to learn emotional regulation for them. I needed to learn how to set stronger boundaries. I needed to do this when I didn't have strong boundaries myself. And by learning those strong boundaries, I was able to then transcend my environment. And I recognized that the partner I had was also not conducive to that. So when you're birthing something, you have to be asking, is my mindset strong? Do I have the right education? Do I have the right environment for this? Do I have the right support and facilitators around me? All of that is necessary to birth your next level and have that strong identity. If you don't have it, it falls apart. So at the end of the pregnancy, what I see a lot in women, that not the ones that are working directly with me, but the ones that are out there in the mom groups, they're like, I'm 37 weeks and I'm starting to freak out about how I'm going to handle natural birth. And I find out that they didn't do any preparation at the beginning. None. And they didn't do any preparation in the middle. None. And now they're looking for birth education. After they had all that time to look for the birth education and they didn't do it. Of course they're going to be afraid. And the most often what I see is that they're like, oh, well, I need to look outside of myself and maybe I'll get the epidural. I'll anesthetize the experience. I will seek other people's opinions on how bad that pain is. When other people may not recognize that because they didn't do that foundational work or they don't have the same experience, and they say, oh, it's super painful, just get the epidural. And everybody's like, oh, okay. So it's like, I want to start a business. Tell me the truth. How bad is it? How hard is it? And people will tell you that it's a lot of work to put in. It's worth it, and it's a lot of work. And, you can either cry about it the whole time or you can do something. Marriage and relationships can be absolutely beautiful. There's also a lot of trauma bonds. There's a lot of settling. There's a lot of things, it's like when you realize, it's like, but that's not true love. But that's not true natural birth. But that's not actually true entrepreneurship. That's the get rich quick way that people think is going to work, when really they're just going to cannibalize their market because they're not tied to their message. Like, when you recognize that, do you want the real thing? Or do you want the fake version that is not going to fully satisfy you and possibly going to come with trauma because you can't really hold it because you haven't changed your identity? What do you want? And why do you want it? When moms are wanting a natural birth, I'm always asking that deeper question. It's like, what is it you really want to avoid here? It's like, I don't want to have a C-section. I want to avoid a C-section at all costs. It's like, why? It's like, well, I don't want that long postpartum recovery. Like, that sounds like hell to me. And the idea of being cut open is terrifying to me. And, I really want to be able to bond with my baby. And I really want to be able to not be in pain after. And it's like, okay, well, then the option that you have to avoid a C-section, your best chance, is to have a completely physiological birth. That is the most optimal. And like, what do you mean by completely physiological birth? And I'm like, I mean, you cannot be pushing on the outside. You have to reduce or eliminate interventions. You're going to be doing it without pain relief. And if you do choose to take pain relief, you need to understand that that reduces your chances of having the physiological birth. It's the same thing with business. You want a business? You want to never be tied to a 9-to-5 again, never have to worry about money again, never have to worry about answering to people again? Yeah, you're going to have a lot of freedom. It's totally worth it. There's going to be beauty with that. You're creating something of value for the world. You're also going to have to shift your identity. And you're going to have to stop relying on the outside structures to do it. Because the outside structures keep you in that box. You're going to have to be okay with not being liked by everyone. You're going to have to be okay with being seen to be able to do it. You're going to have to be okay with putting in a lot of work with very little results on the outside right away. You're going to have to take the time to actually get to know yourself and the people around you and connect the two. You need to be able to build that foundational state. Like, I have built an ecosystem. It's powerful. When I showed my big brother, he's like, holy crap, this is a gold mine. Like, every entrepreneur is probably going to want this. And I'm like, I know. And not every entrepreneur is going to be able to use this as effectively unless they have the core foundational pieces. And I will absolutely be teaching on that at some point. So that is something that I'm building in tandem with Empowering Moms, because technically, if you think about it with the birth side of things, then I also have the business side. The moms who don't want to go back to a 9-to-5 after they have kids. And the ones that want to become my coaching queens. They will have that ecosystem. So you have to recognize that identity shift. Because when labor hits, you don't know how it's going to go. Nobody can prepare you for labor. It can go fast and be over in 5 hours. It can also be the most intense 5 hours of your life. It could be over days. 3 days, 4 days. You could have a whole bunch of stops and starts. It could be weeks of prodromal labor and then like a false start for about 24 hours and then a 16-hour stall. It can be intense at parts and then mild and then stall out. You really don't know how that process is going to go. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your process. It just means that in the first stage, and there's actually 3 stages, in the first stage of it, you've got the signs happening. How much are you resting? When you're in the first stage of labor, and even leading up to it, I tell all of my clients to rest as much as humanly possible. No, I don't want them to go for a walk. No, I don't want them to try to get things going. I want them to rest. And it's counterintuitive. And I realized that when I started resting, I got less of those practice contractions. Because those practice contractions are really just saying, hey, something's coming in soon. You might want to rest and prepare. I mean, I feel this quite often, literally. It's like, okay, something's coming in soon. I'm seeing the signs, and I need to build the foundation to hold this. I can see that there's more people looking at my stuff, which means that eventually there's going to be an explosion. I don't know when the explosion is, but I know that it will come. They will see my channel. One of those videos is going to go viral. I don't know which one. And one of those videos is going to go viral. And when that happens, suddenly everybody's going to flock to my channel. Now, if I hadn't created a book first, how many discovery calls would I get? More than I can handle. And people would be falling through the cracks. I'd have to build a lot faster. So I'm like, okay, somebody found my page and they booked a call with me based on these not perfectly done videos where I don't even have my system fully figured out. Thank goodness I have the PDF version of my book. And thank goodness I have this challenge that she can go through that's like a course. So I don't have my actual thing, but I have enough other things that I could package together and give to her to go through if it wasn't a good fit to work with me directly. Like I could sell that. The more things you create, the more you have packages. And you need to know how those packages work. So now I have a book. I have a Reset Your Mindset for Empowered Birth mini challenge, which I just did this year. That is an introductory step. So is the book. Then I also have my workshop that is also introductory. And then I have Academy. And that's when things get deeper. And I also have my laser coaching. And then I have my group coaching. And again, I want that container intimate. So by doing that and recognizing, okay, at some point I'm also going to need a team. I don't need it right now. And at some point when this comes in, I'm going to need that. So I built that foundation in. I've started adding that to my newsletter. I've started talking about that in my videos that I'm recording. I've talked about it as if it's already done or it's already coming into being. Because when you are thinking about trying to conceive or when you are thinking about giving birth, it's already coming. You need to be thinking about postpartum. You need to be thinking and planning about postpartum when you are in the 3rd trimester, not thinking about when to give birth. The time to think about giving birth is in the 1st trimester when you have gotten pregnant. When you are already in the beginning stages, like, okay, this thing is eventually going to be born. Within 3 months, I'm getting enough of confirmation that this is actually happening. This is actually going to happen. 4th month, you need to be thinking about that foundation. By the 4th month of any creation, you need to be thinking about building that foundation to hold it and to hold your new identity. The 5th month, you need to start implementing those changes. The 6th month, you need to be bringing in your supports. The 7th month, you need to recognize you're in an identity change. The 8th month, you need to start thinking about what you're going to be holding after that. The 9th month, things are ending. You're going to be going into a new stage. And you need to be preparing for that new stage. You need to be seeing, I am no longer going to be pregnant. I'm going to give birth, and then I'm going to have a baby. I am no longer going to be somebody who doesn't have a coaching practice. I am going to be somebody who has a coaching practice, and I need to take care of it. I am no longer somebody who just was out dating people. I am in love, and that is my partner. And we are going to have a life together. And I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know that it's going to happen. I have sent that message out to that person. I know it's aligned. I don't know when that message is going to be returned. And I know that that message, when it comes in, I've got my next step already lined up of ideas of how it's going to be done. Like when I sent it out to my brother, it's like, hey bro, I've got something really cool. I already had the video. I didn't have the video right away. I was like, I have the idea. But then over the weekend, I created the video. So when he reached back out about a week later, the first time, he's like, this sounds kind of cool. What do you have in mind? I've got some time. I've been just finishing up another project. I'm like, okay, so he does have time. He is open to it. He would like to see it. And I have the video. So it's like, okay, bro, when you have the moment to watch this, it's about an hour long, go watch it. And he goes and I don't know when he's going to watch that video. I don't know when he's going to message me. I do know that when he's watched that video and he messages me, that's going to either confirm or tell me that there's something that needs to be tweaked or I need to take it somewhere else, depending on what his thoughts were. I already knew it was awesome. I just needed to know, was he in or was he not able to handle it right now? And he's like, this is powerful. So I'm like, okay, so it was the first one, confirmation. It's the same thing when you're going through those labor pains. Is this it or is this just an indication? Because early labor can start. It may not progress. It might stop. Especially if you push and push on the outside and exhaust yourself. And now it's like, well, we don't have time and energy for you to be able to go into the active labor space because you kind of wore yourself out. Now in the medical system, they just push Pitocin to try to get things going. Go check out my birth stuff to see how I feel about that. Like seriously, you don't want to do that. It can be used as a tool, but it can also screw you up. If you hire a coach at the wrong time, or you go into a course at the wrong time, or you hire somebody on the outside to fix something for you that you think is the problem, but really the problem was just you needed to wait, or you needed to build something else first, well, you've just put trauma into that. It's going to hurt a lot more. You need to be patient. You need to let it come in. If you put pressure on that person who you know it's right for you, and you're like, you have to marry me right now, instead of being like, hey, this is already going to happen. You know it is. I know it is. You know what is waiting for us. I just want to know, where are you at in this process of preparation here? Are you at the process where you can hold us? Or are you at the process still where you're building the foundation to hold us? If you're at the process of building the foundation to hold us, that's all I need to know. Oh, you're building? Okay. Well, I'm going to build my side. I mean, I've already been doing it. And you tell me when it's ready so that we can put it together. And we've got the system. We've got the foundation. I mean, we already know it's it. So it's not like we have to spend a lot of time figuring out, is this it or not? We know it's it. We had that confirmation. We had the elevator kiss moment. We know. Like, this has been conceived and gestating for a very, very long time. We know it's going to go off when it does. And we know what's birthing. And we know that these labor pains that we're going through, it's going to bring us somewhere really powerful. So, yeah, we're going to go through that. We're going to go through that fire. We're going to go through that healing. Because you know what? Active labor is not, it can either be really long, it can be really short. It's still the longest part of the whole birthing process. No matter if it's 5 hours or 15 hours, active labor is the longest part of the birthing process after the early labor phases. So you've got the active labor and you're like, okay, in the actual strong contractions that hurt, this is long and it's not going to be as intense and bad as transition, but transition could be 2 minutes. Literally, my transitions are 2 minutes long. It's like 2 contractions and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Why the hell did I think that this was a good idea? Oh, it's done. And for others, it's 2 hours, but they're spaced out. It's just really intense. But it's 2 hours. And then it's done. And a contraction itself, you're not in intense pain the whole time. You're only in intense pain the whole time if you start to feel the contraction coming on and you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no, there it is, here's the scary thing, oh no, freaking out, oh no, ow, it's getting worse, oh no, I don't like this. And then after it's done, you're like, oh my God, that was so awful. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. I don't want to do that again. Please don't make me do that again. Please, I'm done. I want the drugs. I don't want to do this. As opposed to, okay, I can feel it starting. Yeah. All right. We're rising. Okay, we're going to get to the sharp peak and, okay, I can do this. As long as I am actually surrendering to the process, I can do this. Because if you go through the pain, if you actually go through that fire, that really, really intense part, and you just breathe into it, and then you scream it out or go fuck all the way that you want to do, it hurts a hell of a lot less. Actually kind of feels like going up to the top of a roller coaster, as one of my clients had said, and then going down. Like you're like, oh my God, I'm all the way up the top and they're going to drop me. Now I can either scream and freak out and shake. And I mean, I did this. It was actually when I was 15, my dad took us to Playland and there was this coaster and it drops you, and I had never been on something like that, and my dad was sitting there and he's like telling me the whole time. He actually threw his back out trying to hold me because I was freaking out the whole time. I'm also a very tiny person, and I'd had previous trauma from another ride where they'd like tipped me upside down and I'd almost fallen out. So I already had that fear. And you know, you kind of slide off the seat a little bit on this coaster, but it's safe. It looks scary because you've only got this little bar, and then it drops you. You don't go upside down or anything, but it just really drops you steep. And you can either freak out and tense up and be terrified, or you can start to see it as a thrill. The thrill of getting to the top of that intense peak and moving through it. And you know, I am just like, oh my goodness, like we are getting into a really intense part here, and this is really like a lot that I'm dealing with. Like this is a challenge with my client, or this is a challenge with my kid, or this is a challenge in my business, this is a challenge in how money is really, really tight right now. Now I can either be scared of it, or I can damn well own this. And I choose to damn well own my labor. So during my labor process, my actual labor, I tensed up on purpose because now I was getting curious. I'm like, I'm going to learn this. I'm not going to run from this. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn how the contraction actually rises. I'm going to watch how it crests up. I'm going to watch that sharp peak. I'm going to imagine my cervix opening up while that sharp peak happens. I'm going to imagine my baby moving down when I feel that pressure, and I'm going to actually pay attention to those waves. And I also did this just thinking, okay, what happens if I close my mouth? I don't like that. What happens if I don't vocalize? Oh, that sucks. What happens if I clench up deliberately, tense up every muscle in my body and resist it? Oh, no, I'm never doing that again. Like, no hell, no, not fun. What happens if I keep my eyes open instead of closing my eyes like my body wants me to do? Yeah, no, that doesn't feel good either. There seems to be a rhythm to this. There seems to be some cues that my body needs me to do in order to not feel any pain, to go into this trance. Fascinating. And then even with transition, like recognizing that's the part where you're almost done. And that's the part where people usually give up. When the money is starting to just not flow anymore, or you've got a whole bunch of obstacles happening in your business that you know is aligned, or when that person is taking forever to finally tell you what you already know is true, and you're like, well, we're not getting any younger. What's going on? Why aren't you doing this yet? Instead of doing that, it's like, no, it's coming. It's coming. This is the intense part. This is the challenge. It's like, can you still stick with it? Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it seems like everything is falling apart, are you going to hold the vision? Oh, I held the vision. I held the vision. I will not give up on empowering moms. I will not give up on my true love. And I certainly as hell would not give up on my birth. When things got tough in the pushing stage and everybody's like, she can't do it. I'm like, well, the obstacle in my way is not my body. It's actually everybody else on this outside that's telling me I can't do it. I'll show them. I'm not giving up. No, you're not going to put me in for a C-section. No, you're not giving me an episiotomy. No, you're not going to take any more from me than you've already taken. Oh, my house is burning down. Oh, okay. Well, no, you're not going to take any more from me. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to rebuild better than I've ever rebuilt before. Oh, my marriage is falling apart. Yeah, well, you know what? That's not going to stop me. Oh, I'm going to be a single mother. That's not going to stop my dreams. I'm not going to let it stop me. I am stronger than this contraction. I am stronger than this transition. And once this transition's over, I don't have to do that part anymore. That part's done. Now I'm birthing. I'm getting past it. I'm going through that fire and I'm getting past it. I'm going through the storm. I'm getting past it. And I'm going to have the most amazing afterbirth. The afterglow of being like, I did it. I did it when everybody else told me I couldn't do it. The moment I got my first client was the moment I realized that I'd actually accomplished something powerful. The moment she had her empowered birth, that is when I realized that I would never go back to just educating, that I would always be a coach, that I would always help moms who wanted to have that natural birth. In some form, I would do it. When Jenny did what she did and created her power with her birth, I knew that not only was I a coach, that what I was really building in my empire of influence was going to matter so much to more than just me. It was going to matter to moms everywhere. So damn straight, I'm going to keep going. And now there's this mom who is like, she's not even a mom yet. She wants to be a mom. She's embodying a mom. She is currently engaged and wanting to conceive a baby, or maybe she's already trying to conceive at the same time, or maybe she's already pregnant. I don't know yet because we haven't had that conversation. She's just commenting on every single video. I don't know how she found me yet. All I know is that she decided to take proactive action towards avoiding a C-section and having that natural birth. And she's learning from me. And she's like, I'm already feeling empowered by your videos. And that was the confirmation I needed. To be like, people are watching. Maybe not at the level I wanted yet, And people are watching and they are getting those identity shifts from my content. And what's more important to me than sales is the identity shift. Because when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take that power from you ever again. And that's what I stand for, is for people to take their power back. To no longer give that power away. To no longer run away from the fire. The fear of what's on the other side of that fear, that contraction, is you're getting one step closer to birthing something. Birthing a new version of yourself, a new identity. Yeah, you can go back to the old way, but you're going to have that regret that you never got to that point. Don't anesthetize yourself. There's a difference between true suffering when something needs to change and you need that little bit of help, versus numbing out because you just want to stay comfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because guess what? It's not over. You birthed the baby, but now you've got the recovery. And you've got a new integration. You've got a new product. You've got a new identity. You've got a partner. You've got things that you're building together. You're tying your lives together. You've got something, an entity, that also needs to be taken care of. You've got a new baby, and you're also taking care of this new version of yourself. This raw, new version of yourself that you don't even know fully what that new identity is going to be. Because your old identity of pregnant person or person building a business is gone. It's gone. That's not who you are anymore. You're no longer pregnant. You're postpartum. And postpartum requires rest again. It requires rest so that you can now see what it is you've created and then go from there. So after I've birthed a project, my book or whatever, I'm always looking for that next level. How am I going to use that book? I have it now. I didn't have it before, and I have it now. So I took my book, and now it is a piece of all of my videos. My old videos, it's not there, but now my new ones, I have that book. When somebody reaches out to me and asks me something, and they're not quite at the level to work with me directly, and they may not even be able to afford my coaching, I can now offer them my book. When I birthed my program last year, which used to be a live group program, and now I've created it as self-study with just some laser coaching, that is something that I didn't have before. So I'd be like, I only have my book and I have the ability for you to work with me directly. There was nothing in between. Now I have a starter guide. So that needed to be like all of these pieces. It's like, okay, I have all of these things, all of these offers, and now where am I going to house them? I created another system. My true love partner is coming in. I'm not going to be a single mom anymore. New identity shift. I'm not going to be doing the business by myself anymore. I'm going to be integrating that with other things. I'm going to have more spaces in my day where I'm not going to be working so hard. I'm going to be doing other things. Who am I going to call in on my team? What calls am I going to take on? Who am I going to collaborate with? I mean, I'm already starting to think summer is approaching. My studio is going to be dark, so I won't be doing any interviews or anything, but I will be taking Zoom calls to do those connections. Because about 1 to 2 months before I actually create the interview, sometimes 3 months depending, I am basically doing that groundwork. I'm reaching out to people. Hey, I like your stuff. I like what you're saying. I like how we kind of synergize here and you seem to like my stuff too. What if we talked and let's see where our schedules actually align on this, because we're building. We're not going to push Pitocin into this. We're not going to force something out before it's ready and get a shoddy product. No, everything with Empowering Moms is quality. I strive for quality with my products and with all of my content. There's a reason it's so damn good. It's because I took the time with my mentors teaching me how to weave that effective strategy into everything. I have a system with how I teach it so that no matter what topic I have, I know the structure of how I'm going to teach it before I even get on camera. There's certain times of the month where I know I'm most magnetic and I'm going to have the most pockets of time, and those are the times that I'm going to be recording. There's times of the year that I'm going to be devoting more to projects or to family, and I'm like, I need to structure my business in a way that's fluid, not overly rigid. Rigid structure doesn't work for birth. It doesn't. If you're still trying to do a rigid structure in your creation and you're wondering why it hurts so much and why it's so hard, when you try to do a rigid structure in your pregnancy, that's why you're miserable. When you're trying to do a rigid structure with your birth, that's why you're miserable. When you're trying to do a rigid structure while raising kids, that's why you're miserable. My children test me every single day. My children are chaos on wheels. Am I upset about it? No. It's an adventure for me. And yeah, there's moments when I forget for a minute and I'm like, you know what? I wish they would just, couldn't they just be a little bit more rigid, structured wise? Can't they just do something? And then I remember, it's like, well, wait a minute. They are going through a developmental process right now. Every 3 months, their brain is being restructured. Every 6 months, they're going through a growth spurt. My daughter had a whole bunch of sundresses that I bought her last year. I bought her a few. And she went and tried to put them on, and she's like, oh my gosh, they're way too short. I'm like, yeah, I know. There's a reason why I went and bought you a size much bigger than what we usually get you. I didn't just get the next size up. I got the one after that. And the reason was because I knew that because you are 9 years old, you could hit your growth spurt very fast. And also because usually about every 6 months, you hit a growth spurt. I knew that my son was going to accelerate in growth. Sometimes I deliberately don't buy things that they think that they need right away. They're like, I need new shirt, I need new shoes. I'm like, not yet, you're not. You can wait a little bit longer. No, Mom, I want new ones. Not yet. Why? Because your feet are about to grow 2 sizes in 2 months. So if I go out and I buy you the shoes now and you end up growing faster and bigger than I already anticipated you being, I've just spent a lot of money on shoes that don't even fit you after a month. That's why. Oh, yeah. You gotta wait for it. It's the same thing. It's like if you are building a container or a system or strategy within your business and you're only thinking about what it looks like now. Well, I don't have a very big list, so I don't think I really need a YouTube channel because I don't have a big list, and I don't think I really need to have a product because I don't really have that many clients coming in, and I don't think I need that book because, I've got a program, it's expensive, but, I don't really have a big audience. What happens if you go viral? What happens if you're better than you think you are? And you don't know how big that expansion is actually going to be. I mean, I didn't know when that mom came to me, when Rebecca came to me. I can say her name because she's I've said it many times, she was my first client. The one that was my first coaching client that I worked with for 3 months in the one-to-one space, aside from Jenny, because Jenny is different. She's a completely different avatar here. But for an actual paying client who hadn't known anything about me, and Jenny had said, hey, we're running this workshop. You can come and check out and learn for free. And Rebecca learned for free, and she binge watched over the several days. And then I didn't know anything about her. She commented on a few things. And then a week later, she emails me in June, and she says, Carly, can you look over my birth plan? I want to have a VBAC after 2 previous C-sections. I don't want another C-section. I've been looking over all your stuff and I don't want another C-section. Help me. And I looked over her birth plan, and the old me, the old identity that I would have had if I hadn't been embodying the new one of I'm a coach and had basically my mentors telling me you are a coach now, and having a reinforced support system, not my partner, but my friends that I had created saying you are a coach, and having that education, having all of those ideas, and my identity pretty much transformed of I am a coach because I was teaching classes already. When she asked me to look over the birth plan, I'm like, oh, this is not just me looking over a birth plan. This is an opportunity to look to see if she might want to work together. And even if she doesn't, this is practice for me for when people are like, I want to pay you X dollars to look this over and help me. So I was already looking in the lens of this is an opportunity here. And I said, okay, I see some things in your plan, and we need to, I was wondering, are you free to get on a call? And she's like, yeah, absolutely, I'll talk to you. And how's this day? And she's like really eager to get on that call with me. And then I also found out that she talked to her partner before getting on that call with me, and he was already on board for whatever she wanted to do. So I'm saying, okay, the partner's already on board, and I'm like, well, this is not a sales call, Rebecca. We're not doing a sales call here. I'm going to find out whether this is actually a good fit, because if it's a good fit, that's one thing. Then we can talk about how that looks. Depending on how it works for you and how it works for me, we can talk about what we would do. I mean, I had a group program already, so it's not like I didn't already have something that she could join if she wanted to. And if she didn't have anything that she could do, if she couldn't do a group program or she couldn't work one-to-one, then at least I was still going to leave her 10 times better than I found her. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, so how do you think that I could help you after I was looking over the things? And she's basically saying my script back to me. All of the things that I'd been saying in my workshop that had just come from my heart and soul, she was saying it right back to me. And I'm like, oh, you paid attention. You paid attention better than I thought anybody would pay attention. I mean, this is the first time I've ever run the workshop this way. This is only my second time doing it. And I had just changed my niche a little bit from first-time moms to moms who'd had trauma in their births and wanted to reclaim their power. So I had that angle, and she's saying it all back to me. And I told her at the end, it's like, okay, well, it's this much to work with me directly if you wanted me to also be your virtual doula. And she's like, okay. And it's like, it's a lot, and I could probably work out, do you have a payment plan? I'm like, well, we do have payment plans available, so there's a couple options. And I told her the options, you could pay up front, you could pay half up front and then do this way, or we could do a monthly. You just decide how you want to do it. If it's a good fit, come back and think about it. And she thinks about it for a day, and then she sends me a message. It's like, okay, we're going to do this much. I'm like, okay, all right. So now I've got a client and I have a class, and my marriage is falling apart at the same time. And this time it's on my terms, and I've been planning for months to get out. So it's like, okay, I'm moving and I'm planning my escape from him, and I just got a new client, and she's actually paying me what I asked, which I'd never asked for in my life. And now I'm a coach. I'm literally a coach. I'm no longer just a teacher. I'm a coach. And I'm a coach who's coaching somebody one-to-one. And I'm a virtual doula who is now helping somebody through their birth. My identity has shifted. And I embodied that identity over the summer. And then basically I just kept transforming. And you need to recognize that your identity is an ever transformational process. Every 29 to 30 days, You are changing in some direction. So now the question is, where are you at in your identity process? Where are you at in your birthing process? Whether you're birthing a business or a baby, it doesn't matter, or getting into a new relationship, where are you at? Because the cycle continues. Pay attention to the years, pay attention to the months, pay attention to the weeks. Where are you at? And if you know where you're at, then when you see those challenges come up, you know how to work through them now, don't you? Exactly. You follow the method. You follow, and remember, this is all birth. You're birthing an identity, you're birthing an entity, and there's a timing that's happening. And it's all going to come together, but you can't anesthetize. You can't anesthetize it. Because if you anesthetize, you miss the experience. You miss the lesson. If you miss the lesson, how are you going to go to those higher levels? If you defer only to the experts and you don't use your own intuition, how many things are you going to try that just don't seem to work? For your kids, for your business, for your unique style, for your unique partner, for your birthing process. You can't just trust the experts. My clients do not come to me for me to tell them what to do. I won't tell them what to do. I will pay attention to their unique process of how they do things. I will pay attention to what I see unfolding. I will reflect that back to them, and I will remind them that the transformation is in that fire that they're too afraid to go into. And I will hand them tools to get through that fire. And I will also find the tools that are going to work for their particular fire with what they have done in the past. Taking their own tools and basically synthesizing them and being like, now it's a more powerful weapon because I added something to it. It's the same thing you're used to using, just use it in a different way. And that's why I don't work with everyone who comes to me, because not everybody is at that level where I can see that map and be like, okay, here we are. You got to do the work. You got to be willing to do the work. I won't rescue. I'll show you where you're magnificent. I'll show you what needs to change to get to that next level. If you want to work with me, if you want to be in connection with me, there is a map and there is a price. There is a certain price you need to pay. I am not a good time girl. I'm not an option. I'm not somebody that you just bring into your life, use, and then toss away. If you want me around, you need to be playing at my level. I'm not somebody who's just going to come in and give you everything you want when I have other things I need to do. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to protect my time, my energy, my priorities. And if you can meet me at that level, I will prioritize you. I will give to you. I will give you so much. I will love you. People who get onto my interviews, even if they're not getting the results right away, if somebody interviewed with me and they expected to suddenly get a whole bunch of sales overnight, I'd be like, that's not the process. That's not how it works. How it works is that you need to actually come in, your full authentic self, with your showcasing of your magnificence, willing to give brilliance, not surface level scraps, but actual brilliance, true value. My content that I put on my channel and what I expect of those who I interview and want to amplify the voices of, they need to be bringing their A game. They need to shine in their power and magnificence. They need to have an offer that is concrete, that somebody could go to and get that offer. They need to have something that is also low ticket enough that somebody could just get to know them. I prefer them to have a body of content that I can go through, and it's not always necessary, but I want to know enough about that person that if I sent somebody to them, that they would be taken care of. That's what I want. If I'm going to amplify your voice, you're taking care of an empowered mom in my audience. If you send somebody to me, I'm going to take care of them. And I will also highlight your magnificence and bring my pieces. I'll be like, oh, you have Cynthia Gabriel's book, Natural Hospital Birth. Yeah, you follow Cynthia, yeah. Oh yeah, we did an interview together. She and I are in connection. She's awesome. And, I also talk about her book quite a lot in my content. There's some pieces in there that really tie into what I'm doing. Are you interested in knowing those pieces too? Because I can go deep with Cynthia's book. I sit there and I read Cynthia's book and I know all of the ins and outs. I also know Cynthia. So if there's anything that you ever had a question about, I could always ask Cynthia, and maybe she has a resource available, and I could even, if you were at a certain level, maybe we could even get Cynthia in on this. Would that be fun for you? Would you find that valuable to actually have Cynthia teach you and your partner? Because she has her own things. She teaches partners one-to-one, like that sort of idea. And I mean, Cynthia Gabriel is just like, because I've got her thing right behind me. But that's just one of my many, many connections. And even outside of the birth space, I mean, I've said it, Annie Lala, Eben Pagan, Donald Stojak. Those are some pretty badass people. If you haven't checked them out, you might want to. I mean, the things that I learn from them daily, and from like every time that I get to have that interaction with them, they've done so much for me. And then there's other people that I just come across online. I'm constantly looking in my network. So what it is, though, is I plant seeds. And then I water those seeds. And I pay attention to the different gestation processes of each seed and each plant. Sometimes I don't even know what the seed is. I know it's important, and I know to plant it, but I don't know what plant is going to develop, and it might be bamboo. Bamboo takes a while for the root system to develop. So you have to really know. You might not know what plant you are. You might not know what your process is. You might not know what your gestation is. Because, the other thing that really drives me crazy is that moms think that pregnancy lasts 40 weeks, and the medical system pushes induction by about 40 weeks. And the average gestation for a first-time mom is 41 weeks and 3 days. It's only 35% of the population that gives birth before 40 weeks. The 40-week thing is a myth. It takes as long as it takes. If somebody is naturally a 42-week mama or even a 43-week mama, her baby is not ready for the outside at 39 weeks. That baby is premature. I don't care what the timeline says. That baby is premature. The baby is meant to be born at 43 weeks, and you decided to force them out at 39 weeks. That baby had more time to grow. There was nothing wrong other than the fact that they weren't growing on your time scale. Relationships have this too. Something can look like it's not happening on the outside for a very long time, and suddenly the person comes in and is like, let's get married. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if my true love suddenly just said that. I also wouldn't be surprised if we took a little bit of time. It's like, as I said, it has to be right for both parties. The timing needs to be right for both parties. If somebody came into my program and they're like, I want to work with you, And I was like, I honestly can't take on any more clients right now. Now, I can refer you to somebody else, or I can create something else. But right now, the program is full. We've already started working on it. The empowered moms are already doing their thing. I can let you know when that cycle ends and I start another one. Or I've already got my empowered mom that I'm working with one-to-one. Or my coaching queens already are at capacity. I will need to find another coaching queen to take you on. Or somebody would need to drop off to take you on. Maybe that happens and something opens up. Are you willing to wait? Are we worth it? Or are you just shopping around? If you're more afraid of losing clients than you are of actually calling in your integrity, if you're more afraid of your partner taking forever to marry you than you are being with them or not being with them, what are you really attached to? Because, you can be married. That doesn't mean that identity shift has happened. It doesn't mean that it's right. I'm so grateful that my ex never actually married me. It made things so much easier to leave him. It really did. But recognizing you don't want to make that commitment only to have it be a refund. Right? All right. So I think I talked enough. I have another video that I need to do on my Empowering Moms channel on Facing the Fire. I'm also going to direct them to check this channel out, because the other thing about my ecosystem is that it all interconnects. So it's like a web, and I will mention my other things that I create, and then it's up to people where they want to go, because the deeper you go with me, the more you uncover. So this is my personal soapbox where I share my insights. And I've also tied it into birth. So if you're into birth, you can go check out at Empowering Moms Birth. And if you're more into the business side, I've got things in there. If you're more into mom's empowerment side, well, again, I've got that. I've got that in so many different forms. And wisdom comes from multiple perspectives too. So if you happen to be a gamer and you like my gaming metaphors, then those are always fun. I'm creating a playlist on that. If you like my fairy tale metaphors, there's a playlist for that. If you like my birth metaphors for success, well, I'm going to be creating a playlist for that. I just need to have enough of a body of work in each area and take the time to put them together before the playlist can be created. You see again how you need to build that foundation? Exactly. Where are you at in the birth process? All right. So I'm going to go record my next video. This weekend is still kind of up in the air because my son hasn't been doing his homework properly, and my ex has decided that if he doesn't get his work done with me, that my son might stay home, which would screw up my plans, and at the same time, it might actually not be such a bad idea. Not because I force my son to do his work and be rigid with him, but because maybe he needs that break. I don't know. Something will come in. I just take things as they flow, and then I protect my priorities. So we will see what comes up. Maybe he needs some more mommy time. Maybe that's it. I don't know. If a certain person wanted to reach out and find out where we're at, I'm always going to find a way. Even if I've got other things going on, I'm still going to find a way to make that connection happen. Because after all, you got to get it done to get ahead in life. And you also need to just be all in. And I'm all in on that one. He knows I'm all in on that one. And I know he's all in. And I know that he is working hard. So if they wanted to reach out, they know where to find me. And I've got several little seeds planted, and I've got things that could come in over the weekend. I do have some messages to get back to. But you see, you never know where you're at in that gestation process unless you really understand the different ways that it can come together. And you could have multiple things gestating at different points, especially if you are cultivating a garden like I'm cultivating a rich and beautiful garden as the little butterfly that I am, going out into the world and pollinating all of the magic. So you go do your thing, and I love you. If you found value in this, you can always like it. You can pass it on to others. Go check out my channel, Carly Brundard Uncensored. If you're already on the YouTube channel, then you know that there is a huge, huge archive waiting for you. And it's just going to get better. Okay? So go where you want to go. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.